Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand, welcome to our last show of 2025 and welcome to probably our most important show, because what we're talking about is how do we fix this at Manchester United, both in the short term and in the long term, because any business, any football club needs to assess both. I think United are too obsessed with the long term, sacrificing the short term, which stops you making the long term. So how do we fix this at Manchester United? Happy New Year to you all, by the way. Don't miss our show tomorrow at 10 o'clock with Ben Jacobs. Some really interesting stuff about Amorim's future and also transfers in January. But how do we fix this? Because Amorim, I don't believe, is going to lose his job. As I've said before, I think INEOS are cowards and I think they're protecting themselves and they will not sack him in the hope that the miracle can happen. Is it going to happen? I think we see too many people wanting to walk in other people's shoes as well. I'm very well aware that people think I'm Amorim out, even though they don't walk in my shoes, they don't know how I think, and I spend a lot of time explaining my point of view. I'm live for an hour each show and I tell you in great detail what I think. Walk your own shoes. If you're Amorim out, walk your own path. If you're Amorim in, walk your own path. And if you want to know what I think, listen to what I've said in the past. In the short term, I don't think he goes anywhere. So how do we fix this for Manchester United? Because Amorim out, Amorim in, I want European football. Amorim out, Amorim in, I want Man United to start competing in the Champions League. So how do we fix this? Well, look, easily. The dream for me would be INEOS and the Glazers piss off. We get new owners, and new owners doesn't necessarily answer everything. You've still got to walk the walk. New owners come in, they clear the debts, they abandon the stadium issue, and they focus on building a team. Because first and foremost, Manchester United Football Club is a football club. I'm not that interested in regeneration of the area or a brand big new stadium that they can use in future Euros and World Cups. I want a team to be proud of. I want performance, I want results, and I want vision. And I want owners that come in, clear the debt, and focus on that, who really do employ best in class, who understand Manchester United's DNA, who understand that we do play a back four, that we like wingers, that we like risky football, that we like to take people on, that we like to develop talent, but we like to have the best talent. The principles are really easy. I'll do the job part-time if they want it, but we do need new owners. And with new owners will come a new manager. So I've always said that. The new manager will come with the new owners. But are we going to get new owners? Well, it doesn't seem like it, does it? They're in for the long run. Nobody's putting them under any pressure externally, whether it's the fans or another buyer. So we're stuck with this. So how do we fix it? I want people to give your top 3 reasons, your top 5 reasons. I want to be reading these tonight while I'm sipping on my 10th, maybe not my 10th, rum and coke. And I want to be reading these going, that I like that, I like that. I want you to list how you would fix Manchester United, because first and foremost, it's new ownership. I genuinely do not believe on this New Year's Eve, looking back on 25, 24, 23, 22 and all sorts, and looking ahead to 26, 27, 28, 29, I don't actually see a way back. I don't see a way back under this ownership. They have been a cancer to this football club. They are eroding it. They're eroding the principles, they're eroding the stadium, and they are eroding our performance. It's not going to get any better. 20 years of destroying is not going to suddenly turn around. You wouldn't trust Ronald McDonald with your cow. I'm not about to trust the Glazers with Manchester United. And I don't think INEOS have added anything. They're powerless anyway. They're puppets. They're a facilitator. They're a facilitator with the government to get the stadium that the Glazers have always wanted. INEOS don't have any power. They're never going to have any power. They haven't even got 30%. So this ownership, to me, is just futile. It's going to continue to, basically they want to lower standards. They want you to be happy with 5th. They want you to keep, I guarantee this summer we're probably releasing another kit that looks like a kit from when we were good and everybody goes out and buys it. It's an incredible business model and we all lap it up. But new ownership is the only way. Then you get your new manager, then you get your new players, then you clear the debt and everything starts to move in the right direction. Then you get your reset. I don't think Man United are going to win the title, even if we started today in the next 3 years. But we're not starting today. We're not starting until we get those things. So if we're not going to get those things, what happens? Because I think this could be a double-edged topic. You've got the ideal. And some of you might say, I don't think we need new owners. I think we could be successful with the Glazers and INEOS if they do this, this and this. Well, that's my second point. How do we fix this if the Glazers and INEOS are going to stay? Well, Sir Jim Radcliffe or Joel Glazer needs to stop thinking they know better than millions of Man United fans, because they don't, And the key to that is basically because we're Manchester United fans. How can they ever know what's best for Manchester United just because they're good with a calculator and they've earned money and millions and billions in other areas, in other industries? If they were Man United fans, we'd be halfway there. Now, of course, you've got Man United fans who rate the low. You've got Man United fans who, wouldn't mind Gareth Southgate as manager. So they could be bad Man United fans with idiotic opinions, but they're not even Man United fans, really. I don't see any evidence of that. So Jim makes out he's a lifelong fan. He had a bloody season ticket at Chelsea. He doesn't behave like a Man United fan. I've not heard anything that he's ever said that made me think that he understands what Man United's about, where we should be going. And there's no way, if you were Sir Jim Ratcliffe as a Man United fan, you would sit and view Man United and be putting up with this. Being a proper fan makes you irrational. It makes you passionate. It makes you angry. It makes you want to take action. You've seen it at clubs like Chelsea. They'll sack players, the managers a bit quick because they don't like what's going on. How many of you would have made changes at this football club already? And he hasn't made them. So they're not fans, but they act like they know better than us. First thing they need to do is think like a fan. And if we aren't going to remove INEOS and the Glazers and we want to fix this, and there are two strands to fixing this. There is short-term and long-term. Long-term, you can sack Amorim in the summer. You can go for Thomas Tuchel, you can go for Nagelsmann, you can go for Ancelotti, you could still go for Xavi. You can do whatever you want in the summer. There's a lot more options. But you've got to get to the summer and you've got to try and offer up something that's enticing for the next manager. And also, if you can't back this manager, how can you back the next manager? So that's where I sort of struggle, really, because I look at it and I go, sack Amorim, bring a new manager in. If I'm Thomas Tuchel, or I'm Ancelotti, or I'm Xavi, or I'm Glazer, or I'm whoever, and I look at that team, I've got a hell of a lot of work to do. And I don't think people realise this. I've got a hell of a lot of work to do. I don't rate Dalot. I don't rate Luke Shaw. Harry Maguire and Casemiro are basically finished. Bruno may want to go in the summer. Cunha and Mbeumo and Ahmad are interesting players, but we need to be getting a lot more out of them. As is De Ligt, Yoro, Heaven. There's some interesting players, but there's also a hell of a lot of work. And the midfield is a whole, an arsehole. It's shit. So it's a huge job. It's not just as simple as changing the manager. I don't think there's many fundamentals in place. So what I've got to do as an owner, if I'm the Glazers or INEOS today, and I know I'm not going anywhere, so they're not going to provide me with the only pathway back, which is new ownership, how do we navigate a future with them? Well, there are simple ways that they're just opposed to. Like, there are things that we can do tomorrow on January the 1st that will instantly make this team better. And amazingly, we're 13th in the league for the calendar year of 2025. 13th. That, all the points from 2025, from last season and this season, were 13th. Our win ratio is about 30-something%. It's shite. Our win ratio this season is 40-something%. It's absolute toss. But we still are within touching distance of Europe. We're still in touching distance of the Champions League. Now, that's rather fortuitous that Chelsea is struggling, Liverpool have struggled, and Newcastle have struggled, because if any of those three teams click, we're gonna get left behind. But we haven't been left behind yet. So if I'm Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I'm looking at this situation and I'm going, right, I'm in big trouble here. I'm literally in a lion's cage and the lion is licking its lips at me. I'm about to get devoured here. How do I get out of this? Well, quickly. Someone give me a lamb chop, throw it at them, and I'm climbing out. There are things you can do. If you've got things, somebody give me an AK-47. We don't want to shoot the lion. The lion is actually the good guy in all of this. But the point is, the January transfer window is open. We're not that far off Europe. The league could continue like this, where a team with a 40-something% win ratio is near the top 5. If it continues like this and we improve a little bit, we could still get European football. That might mean we keep Amorim, which would be a big mistake in many people's minds, but it gets us to the summer and apparently there's money to spend, but they've got to spend it now. So if you're asking me for the two sides of the coin, the best option is we get rid of these owners, we get rid of the debt, we get rid of the manager, we get rid of some of the players, and we have a proper reset. That's the dream. It's not the reality. The reality is we're going to be sticking with Amorim. with INEOS and Glazers in charge. How do you fix that situation? Because we've got to live in a reality. And the reality is, you go into the transfer market, you pick up the phone to Ruben Neves and Conor Gallagher, and you take one of those players as quick as you can. Ideally, I'd take both, but you take one of those players as quick as you can. You drop them into that midfield, and instantaneously, you're a better side. A better side overnight. Because the midfield is redundant. It has been all season. Bruno Fernandes is not a midfielder, but arguably he's better than Agate. Arguably he's better than Mainu. Arguably he's better than Casemiro. I don't know whether I agree with that, but he's not a midfielder. And the midfield is weak. And most of our problems come from that. We can't control a game. We can't feed our attack. We can't protect our defence. So you go and get somebody that's better than what we've got. And in life, if something's available at a good price that's better than what you've got, and you've got the money, why would you never take it? You take it. So that's what I would do in the short term. You've then got to understand how Ruben Amorim can just calm the fuck down, basically. You know, he needs to just calm down. He's backed himself into a massive corner since Boxing Day, where he started talking about, I won't play a back four because of the media and the fans, but I did it because we've got a load of people missing. And then the very next game, you don't do it, even though you've got a load of people missing, because you don't want to get proved wrong. He's fighting too many battles. You know, he hasn't got the resources and he hasn't got the time to fight the battles he's doing. There's a huge element of stubbornness that's making his job ridiculously hard. The substitution, the tactics, the formations, the starting 11s, the things he's coming out with. He's fighting with the media, he's fighting with the fans, he's fighting with results. You know, his own players will be looking at that. So you need to give him a midfielder in January and you need to tell him to calm the fuck down. Because whether he's getting the sack in the summer or not, this is his career. And he ain't Jose Mourinho, and he ain't Sir Alex Ferguson, and he isn't Arsene Wenger, and he's not Pep Guardiola. He's Sesko. He's got the potential to be great, but at the moment, he's very much learning his job, and he just needs to calm down and focus. Because trying to go from a back four to a back three to a back five with a bunch of players that can't master the alphabet is scary. And I think that's what he was trying to do last night. He was trying to fuse back fours with back threes, with back fives. And he had, mate, these players, trust us, aren't up to it. You've got to make it as easy as possible for them. It's like giving a simpleton a task, right? It's like giving an idiot a task. You basically go outside, cut the grass with that lawnmower, right? Don't go outside with the lawnmower, the hedge trimmer, the pond cleaner, and don't complicate them. Just give them the simplest task you can, and the simplest way really is the back four. Stop messing around with formations. Have a best 11. Add a midfielder in there, and we might just make European football in May. But that's short term, and United have got to want to do that. And when you listen to what Ben Jacobs has got to say tomorrow morning, I don't even think they're going to do that. They certainly weren't planning to do that. And that, to me, is the scariest thing, is that they haven't even planned this. They can't even figure this out. If they decide to buy a midfielder in January, it will be a knee-jerk reaction because of results. That should have been absolutely nailed on. We're going to do that regardless of results. And it's not. And therefore, you go back to the owners again. You go back to Berardi. You go back to Wilcox. I heard what Paul Scholes said, actually, that, the club's just got no direction. Amorim doesn't understand what Man United's about. Berardi and Wilcox don't understand what Man United's about. We're being run. It's like going to school for a French lesson and the teacher is German and can't speak French. It's like they're not the right person for the job. And that's what it is with Manchester United at the moment. So, look, I'm really intrigued to know what your thoughts are. But look, there are two things I will say. The best case scenario is that we remove the Glazers, we remove INEOS, we have new owners who care about the club, who want us to be Manchester United, and we start again. Highly unlikely, but that's the only way back, I think, if you want to win Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. If you want to keep messing around like we have done for the last 10 years, then, sometimes in Europe, sometimes winning an FA Cup, because I think that's the limit with the Glazers and INEOS. We're not winning Champions Leagues or Premier Leagues with them, but we can get in the top four occasionally and we can win the FA Cup. If we want to do that, we're miles away at the moment. So all I'm saying is, short term, with Amorim and the Glazers and INEOS, The ceiling will be FA Cup top 4 occasionally, because we're miles away from that at the moment. To do that, you need a midfielder in January. You need Amorim to calm down, stop looking at everybody else and being stubborn, and just settle on a system and a formation that's really simple, that the players understand. Get to the summer. That's what I would be. You know. But you need Man United people. You need Man United people in the football club, because, as I've said before, I wouldn't sack Amorim now. Like, where are you going to go? How much is it going to cost? You know, where are you going to go? How much is it going to cost? Like, if you get to the summer, be less money to sack Amorim. And also, there'll be more availability. So it's a bad time to sack a manager in January. You bring players in January that the next manager can use. And look, the next manager needs midfielders. So all I'm saying is, we're not going to get the dream, are we? We're going to get the reality. And the reality is, best case scenario, we're occasionally in Europe and we win a domestic cup. I don't want that, but we're miles away from that anyway at the moment. So, and some people see that as progress. To get that, I need to be active in the window to improve that midfield. It's an absolute urgency matter. And I need Ruben Amorim to be told, look, mate, you're that close to the sack. If you want a chance of rescuing your job, you've got to get European football. And to do that, you've got to stop with all this fusions of 3-4-3s and 4-4-2s in game, because these players ain't intelligent enough for it. You've got to get the best out of this set of players. You've got to stick on a system and stick with it and make it simple for these players. And we'll bring the midfield in, and let's see where we are at the end of May. And that is the short-term goal. Now, if that works and we got Europa League or Champions League, you've got more money, you might stick with Amorim, you might remove Amorim, but you've got European football. But what I will say going into 2026 is, if we get European football with Amorim, with those things I've just said, next season will be a bloody nightmare, because I just can't see it working. I can't see us being able to deal with Europe and the Premier League and all this chaos and a summer transfer window and who's going to be here and who's going to get brought in. I'm looking at 2026 and I'm thinking the positive maybe could be European football, but next season I can see us back here on New Year's Eve going, I just don't see it getting any better every year. I think we're going to be in the same position most years talking about the same thing. And until we get rid of these owners and we get new owners in, I just don't see us ever getting Man United back. I don't. I think the limit will always be, the best case scenario is, under the Glazers and INEOS, is the occasional Champions League qualification and the occasional domestic trophy. We are so far away from winning Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. Like, we're so far away from Arsenal and Man City in the way that they're run. Let alone the way they play and the squads they've got, but the way they're run. They're making so much money. They're making so much money and they're investing it all the time. And we haven't got any money, and we're not going to make any money. And we haven't got people who understand the game anyway. But look, I want your comments. At the end of the year, as we go into 2026, what would you do to change things? And you can split it like me. You can have your dream scenario and you can have your reality scenario. Let me know your thoughts. Happy New Year to you all. Smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe. But Happy New Year to you all. I'll never not be grateful for what we've built on the United stand. And especially, look, the best times have always been the Europa League final against Ajax. You know, Lyon this year was an amazing night. And they're few and far between. I think that's the sad thing. When I was growing up watching Man United, you know, that Lyon game, you wouldn't piss on it if it was on fire. It's just a Europa League bloody knockout game where you win, luckily, in extra time. That's the best highlight of the season, isn't it? We had proper, regular, epic games in epic tournaments. We're miles away. But I'm glad I get to share it with you, because it's such a therapy session. Whether we agree or not, it's such an important thing for so many. So don't ever think that you're not important, because you are. Have a great day, evening, whatever you're doing. Stay safe, whatever you're doing. And I'll speak to you live. Well, we've got the Ben Jacobs show at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Very interesting. Watch out about that. And I'm hoping I won't have too much of a hangover, and I'll get live with you at about 1, 2 o'clock on New Year's Day. Happy New Year. Don't forget to leave your comments. I'll speak to you on the next one. Take care.